Welcome back to Late Night at the Barcade. I am your host, John. So goddamn sleep deprived today. It's insane. Bit of context before we get into the fucking episode. I think I got maybe 2 hours of sleep last night because I had insomnia and I needed to get up in the morning to talk to someone about D&D and I love waking up at 4 in the morning when it's pitch black, staring at a fucking screen while I have someone in my ears telling me I'm wrong. Debating at 4 in the morning is something I need to do more. I need to debate at 4 in the morning more so that I can create a situation where I can create a debate show, right? With people on the internet, Americans on the internet, and then we can start talking about politics, right? I can get 175 views like I did in the previous 2 episodes. That's what I need to do. I need to pander to the lowest fucking degree in order to play the game, to play the thing. Anyway, welcome back to Late Night at the Barcade, the show where I have a tangent before we start fucking the stupid goddamn episode or whatever, and I do a podcast with only 2 hours to sleep about something that may require a little bit more substance than what I'm about to give it. So, tune in. I am joined, of course, by my lovely editor, Lily. And let's get straight into this. Today we're gonna talk about fucking true crime podcasts. Specifically, the idea of over-infantilization of celebrities. That sounded cool and fucking cool and epic, dude. Yeah. For a bit of a stop saying oh my lord. For a bit of stop saying for a bit of a preamble, I have not had a lot of sleep. And I will be trying to discuss a topic because I, being an adult, still have to function my day-to-day with a lack of sleep. Maybe you might be sitting there and saying, well, you shouldn't have got up at 4 in the morning to do stuff, but I thought it was important, okay? And I've woken up and it's the fucking coldest day this year in my country. I'm sitting in my room with I have 3 layers on. I have shorts, I have fucking like gym wear, and then I have fucking more trousers, right? And then on top of that I've got black gloves like I'm in a fucking mukbang and I'm about to eat some food with Nikocado Avocado while he sits and talks about the fucking conspiracy. And I watch as years go by as the fat in my body melts to a point where it starts boiling my goddamn innards. That's where we're at. It's fucking freezing. I am just covered head to toe. I'm in, because I've got too much on, I'm fucking constricted. I can hardly breathe. People, fucking solicitors knocking on the door because apparently this is the school holidays. So the solicitors are now indoors trying to pick on the little kids to pay for their fucking alimony checks or some crap. Because every solicitor is a divorcee. You heard it here first, and that's a real fact. Let's get into the show. We're talking true crime. Now, for many, this interesting little phenomenon that is, I think, has come out in the last, since television's come out. I'm in a fucking madhouse. I've got dogs ripping down my fucking door. I'm freezing. I'm tired. I shouldn't be doing a podcast like this. I actually was recording this before. I did a 20-minute segment thingy-majig. And the recording didn't work. So, I could have... That was fun. I'm glad that happens. I'm glad I don't go into fucking OBS and double check I'm fucking recording. Anyway, sorry, let's again get into the topic of today, right? I could talk semantics for fucking ever and then not actually have a goddamn episode, right? So, this trend over, I would say within the last 50 or 50, 60 years since TV became a thing, you know, people have grown in obsession, I think since the dawn of time, have grown an obsession with villains, with the evil character, the Hannibal Lecters of the world, right? And, they're always played on TV with this handsome fucking stud of a man, right? Because, because to a degree, it is very, enthralling the story, and the tales of killers and the way in which their minds work. And how, often they come from very human, very traumatic experiences, and a lot of people are able to relate, right? But today, we're talking specifically about the idolization and obsession that people tend to have towards killers. You see now, in the particularly within the last 20, 30 years, this, obsession over killers, turning killers into celebrities for, their own interesting little sexual desires, or in case of the newer generation, this badass energy, right? You can take media since the dawn of time. Look at the Dracula movie, the 18th. I don't remember when it came out. It was like the 80s. Came out in the 80s, I think, maybe even before that. I don't fucking know. We don't research here in the show, but you take that for example, and I mean, since the book came out, there was always these knockoffs and books within the same world where Dracula is a stud and you're the main character and you're actually his lost wife and he's so forlorn over you. He just wants to bang, dude. Dracula's just horny. And I think it's since the dawn of time when these things have come out, there's always been these people who have over hyped. Jesus Christ. We're trying to speak here on the podcast. Overhype these people who have done wrong. And I think in a fictional sense, it's it's all right, right? Everyone has their own little fucking experiences and enjoyments. I mean, you look at Dexter Morgan, the amount of fucking little first posts that I get on fucking from friends and people I've known, right, who are like, well, X, Y, and Z, I want to bang Arthur Morgan. I love the fact that he's kind of like a vigilante. But take, like, instance like Jeffrey Dahmer. We're not going to talk about his killings or anything like that. This is not the show for that. But I know a big thing when Jeffrey Dahmer was imprisoned, and maybe this is not an actual correct fucking thing, but I know it happens now, is that people overly sexualized this guy and his murders, right? The amount of people I know who have gone on to do these weird crime things. I'll say a good example, because I play D&D. Often the D&D crowd are some of the worst fucking individuals in this regard, right? I was playing with a game, this was years and years and years ago, with this DM who this was through Reddit or something like that. And he had his profile active that you could look through all of his, points and all of his posts. And the amount of shit he was subscribed to, I remember looking at this, and for those people here on the show who don't like all of these things, tune out for at least a minute, right? I mean, you're here for a reason. I'm crude and fucking disgusting. He was subscribed to a it was like criminal porn or something like that. And it was, or r/criminal porn, something like that. And it was this subreddit that had all of these different like role play groups, and he was subscribed to this guy who was dressing up like Jeffrey Dahmer and that one clown guy, that big fat clown guy, and he was dressing up like them with images side by side, and everyone in the comments was like, "Oh, you're so sexy," because I think he was like a twink Dahmer or something like that. And then his friend was like the fat one. I don't really remember that well. And it was just them with their it's terrible that this was even given to me. But what I tend to try and do, for a bit of context, with people I know, is I tend to try and, I don't know, have a little bit of a background check on the people I'm interacting with day to day. And it just so happened to be that this guy was a freak. And it was a big community, man. I think it was like 1,000, 2,000 people, right? All doing this weird kind of fucking pseudo porn of Jeffrey Dahmer and whatever fucking stupid characters they have. You know, you see the fucking stupid little trend, or the you know, stereotype of mothers getting to an age where, you know, they watch true crime. And you know, I don't think that's necessarily the problem. I think it's when you get these people who are so enthralled in their enjoyment of true crime that it becomes this weird, kinky, weird, you know, I like men that are like blank people, right? You know, there's nothing wrong about enjoying true crime. I love the idea of my mother being, you know, a great fan of it. I remember sitting down, this was like a couple years ago, and I saw her watching something about this killer who murdered their children because, you know, she was stressed or something like that. And she was going over how they did it. And I was sitting there, you know, just taken aback. I didn't get why the fuck my my mother was talking about how the way in which she would murder her children. And I said to her, you know, I don't know if this line of thought is very healthy for you. And I think she understood it to a degree. We did get into a bit of a spat at the time, as one would when you're talking. Your mother comes out and says, "Oh, here's my favorite part about this mother that murdered her children, who's kind of like at the same age as you." I live in a fucking Danganronpa house where everyone's out to try and kill me. My cousin's one of the blackened, which in the game is, I think, the murderers. I don't know that much about fucking Danganronpa, but he's out to murder me. My fucking nephew is one of the good guys, but he's a child, so he's not even helping me. The clues aren't there. They're all trying to murder me. They think I've turned turncoat. We're in a shitty puzzle. I'm fucking doing maths equations while a giant goddamn guillotine is going up and down. Huh? Yeah, they're voting me out this week. That's why I'm saying this. You know, the whole intention was to get rid of me, I guess. You know, because I'm the worst son out there. I shout when I'm doing my fucking podcast. But it's that lovely idea of, and I get why, right? I do genuinely understand the enjoyment of true crime for a lot of women because, you know, oftentimes women are the victims in these situations. And I know a lot of women who I've spoken to about, you know, their enjoyment of true crime and what not fantasizes, but what, you know, what makes it so enthralling is that they are very relatable situations to be in. You know, as a woman, you'll find a lot of, you know, you'll have a lot of weird experiences in your life from men, from people, from women, from other women. You know, it is, you get the stage of, you get a lot more wild out there for women, right? And I think a big, not a big part of that, but a big reason why true crime is so popular, specifically with women, is this sense of, you know, I can see myself in the shoes of the victim, right? You know, it's why a lot of thriller did so well back in the day, is because truly they were relatable stories with horrifying elements, you know? It's statistically, it's so very unlikely for you to ever meet a serial killer, nor get mugged, robbed, or shot. Depending on your situation, it's different, but the chances of a normal person to have that happening is so low. Getting run over, stuff like that, very very low. But I think for women, there's just that higher chance. Especially for black women, there's that even higher chance. I mean, take Dahmer for example. All he did was kill black people. I don't know that for a fact. I just saw someone saying it in it, all right? Don't fucking kill me. I know this is a very sensitive topic. We're not talking about, like, the fucking individuals who did the crimes, right? We're talking about the people who are enjoying the content. And I have known a lot of black women who enjoy true crime because oftentimes, they are the victims. It's a very terrible thing. But, sometimes you will get that situation, and the real big issue is when you do get these situations where someone won't really have a mild curiosity for something, but will enjoy it for the fact of this is a very blistering topic. It's why children are so attracted to gore and violence, is because it's this sensory overload, right? It's this failure of empathy that's very hard for the brain to understand, and it's tantalizing, right? And I know firsthand, when I was a kid, I was so enthralled in gore and horror and murder because, this idea of my humanity slipping away, this failure of empathy, was very tantalizing as a child. And it's tantalizing for a lot of people, This idea of, understanding that by exposing yourself to this, it rubs off to a degree. It's when you experience a horrifying thing, you spend time away from something, feeling this, whatever this fort exhibited for a long time, it rubs off on you. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you out there, especially those in the 20th century, when exposed to these, live leaks and all of that, I'm sure to a degree it sticks with you. I know I am. I know it has. Oh, I can't even speak. All the gore has been flashing into my brain. All I can see is I fucking IKEA executions. Yeah. All I can see is the workers at IKEA fucking setting up stupid desks, standing upon them with guns in their hands and killing each other. That's what I see in my fucking nightmares. But it is this case of how, you've got on two sides of the spectrum. You've got many sides of the spectrum, but we're talking about the two groups in this thing, in this group that are, where the problems are lying, where some people are overhyping and over fantasizing these villains, these killers. And on the other side, you have these people who, are enthralled in the actions of the killers because of the feelings it exhibits. This kind of empathizing with the unempathetic, if that makes sense. Or not even empathizing, I think relating to the lack of empathy, And typically you find them with a lot of teens who are going through times of emotional stress, or those who are going through emotional stress, relating with figures who react with their emotional stress in very obscure and prerogative ways, it's why American Psycho was so goddamn popular, and why for years after the show's inception, you have people doing their little American Psycho fucking edits, because to them, this killer is, someone that a part of them they've seen in themselves, or a part of them they wish to exhibit for the lack of, for, you know, a hatred against the world. You know, I talk about this a lot on the show about doomerism and about, you know, and I've mentioned the overhyping of villains, but, you know, it stems from this idea or this, you know, very human quality in inhuman people. You know, and you can read stories of a lot of killers, and oftentimes you can see a lot of yourself in it, right? At the end of the day, and this is a true thing, you know, what separates killers and people often are, you know, the decisions that are made. It is the intentions that are held, right? You know, there's a very famous case, I think, of a priest who, you know, after a very stressful time, just snapped and killed his family. I think that might have been the thing my mother told me about, or something like that. You know, because it is an understandable thing. It is a terrible thing, but because of that level people have, they see themselves in the killers. You know, and then they start obsessing, and then they start getting to a point where, you know, all of this murder and death becomes you know, glazes over them. You know, they sit there hardened by whatever they see, and it rubs off on them, right? And this obsession makes, you know, creates a situation that was an enjoyment into a mentally ill situation, or those who are now you know, jaded by their experiences are now morally affected by it, right? Because the consumption of things like this in a way that, you know, either just hypersizes, I'm going to use that word, it doesn't matter, it's my show, hypersizes these killers, and those who humanize these killers get, you have to kind of break yourself down to do that. I mean, take detective, I'll take any person in the force who works with killers and murderers and has to investigate them. In order to investigate those who are killers in one way, oftentimes you have to look in darkness, and oftentimes it stares back at you. And sometimes you can't rub the blood and the gore and the viscera. You can't rub it off. Sorry, I just saw a kid riding a bicycle smoking a cigarette up my driveway. Jesus Christ. I'm in the Truman Show, dude. Every waking minute is an entertaining thing for me to do. There's a camera in my goddamn computer and it's watching me. But yeah, it's this, you know, you look at the darkness and oftentimes it stares back, right? And I think that's where some of these issues really lie, you know? And if you are someone who sees that in themselves, I urge you to take a look and realize that it's rubbing off, you know? I think I do try to surround myself, and me as a person, I would claim I'm someone who can very much take a objective stance at myself, you know, to understand, well, hey, I'm reacting to X, Y, and Z probably because of Z, Y, and A, right? Um, you know, oftentimes we have to take a step back and see what our obsession and what our dehumanization of ourselves has, like what if impact that has on us. I mean, it's a big topic to talk about because it is one of those things that I don't think will ever go away. I think we as humans are so very, it's a very natural thing to try and humanize the unhuman, right? And try and obsess over that inhumanity. You know, you look at Twilight and all of that, the killers who are sexy, look at fucking the guy from American Psycho, fucking Charlie Sheen, no, Thomas Shelby. You know, I could sit here for hours And it's often what my show is about talking about, people who, see evil and see inhumanity and don't perceive it in the negative light it deserves to be in, right? And I think you can enjoy true crime, of course you can. But oftentimes, like any bad thing for you, sometimes you got to take a step back. Maybe, I don't know, stop. Stop looking at killers. And understand that, hey, this ain't a good thing, right? This ain't a great fucking thing for you. Being loving fucking killers and murderers and fucking the worst demons out there and watching crime all your life, you may not see as a bad thing, and to a degree it's not. It just has quite negative repercussions on your morality or your, sense of self when you're obsessing over fucking, whatever his name was. I forget. I'm forgetting now because it's fucking. I've had 2 hours of sleep. Have I told you that yet? And it's why these true crime shows do so well. I'm barking up a wall, right? But yeah, it really is this. We're making celebrities out of killers who, for the wrong kind of reasons, right? Killers are and should be, and the point of true crime, most of them, are a case study on the human condition, and for many women, survival, right, is a case study on how to survive. For many, it is a case study on the human condition and a study to catch other criminals, And I think there's entertainment there. I mean, you look at the shows like Dexter Morgan, not Dexter Morgan. I think it is Dexter Morgan. Is that the show Dexter Morgan? The Bay Harbor Butcher? Whatever the show's called that has Dexter Morgan in it. I think it's just called Dexter. The show Dexter and this, killer who's so awesome and can see the enemy's 6 fucking check marks before they fucking do their moves. And he's a killer who hunts killers, I think. And then I don't know, threatens. I don't really know the show. I don't really give a fuck. It's not my kind of cup of tea. And look, you may be sitting in the comments going, well, Jhon, you're just a fucking little chud rat. Who are you to say we can't do this? I'm not telling you you can't, okay? I'm letting you know the impacts this has on people. I know many who are, very... Why am I getting fucking messages? Sorry. Very professional. This is a professional show. I know many who I've known throughout my life who, just have this great obsession with death and, those who do crime. I remember sitting at a bar with a friend that I mentioned on the last episode and just talking about just random shit. And at some point he starts mentioning just this I think it was the Trinity killer or something like that. I don't know. I really don't know. But, it was this hyping of he saw within this person, maybe it wasn't the Trinity killer, but a guy who was hated on by a lot of women. This was the story he was telling me. And that because of that, he wanted to fight. He was killing people much like, what was his face? Jeff the Reaper, whatever his fucking name is. Jeff the Reaper? What's his name? The guy who went around killing prostitutes. Jeff the Killer. Yeah, no, not Jeff the Killer. He's from the Slender Man shit. Oh, I don't even know the guy's name. The Ripper. I think Jeff the Ripper or something like Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper. That's what I'm looking for. God damn, I should research this before I fucking do these things. But he was talking about someone who did something similar for his hatred of women. And coming coming out of the mouth of a guy who, I don't know, has shown me a lot of incel energy, and the fact that he's at multiple times have said it's a good thing you're bisexual, because he said this at the time, because women suck, was something he said to me. An actual just disgusting human being, right? But and a very bad example of those who enjoy killer culture, right? Um, but I think for many, and many like this person, right? They look at killers as some sort of kind of heroes against, horrible things going on. I mean, take the Joker films, for instance. It's, a lot of people use that as a allegory for society sucks. I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to put a smile on my face and I'm going to murder a guy on live television. He was fucking played by a guy who was in it was a detective movie. I'm really bad at fucking references to media when I've had 2 hours of sleep. But for many, they look to these people as heroes, right? As people who are willing to do what at the back of their mind they wish they could do, or they in this weird kind of, I would never do it, but it is like a fantasy, right? Mental immaturity. I'm sure people can relate with being a child and wanting to kill your shitty teacher or someone who was a bully, right? For many, it's this childish, improper way of handling their own insecurities and way of life. So they look at these killers, they look at these murderers, these villains, and they prop them up as heroes, you know? There's a game called Class of '09, right? And because for some reason I surround myself with, shitty men, or I don't surround myself, but I have in the past, right? I had a friend while we were playing Class of '09. It's this game about, a teenager in high school and their angsty fucking early 20s, super cynical take, and it's a whole thing where they use many stereotypes of characters to display a very wacky story with many endings, right? That's not what is that's important. But within the game is a little nerd guy who is just the stereotype nerd, and essentially, this friend was talking about it, and we get up to a point where the character, this kid, and this is a game, right? I'm not endorsing anything. Puts on a Punisher shirt and starts just shooting up people in the streets in Minecraft, because I can't say it on the show, right? You know what I'm alluding to. But he starts doing this just horrible fucking shit, right? In this, in this game, this cartoon game. And my friend makes this really weird comment, and he's like, we're joking, we're having fun. We've had a couple of beers at this point, and we're playing through the game, and we're talking about how fucking crazy this stupid little nerd character is. And he stops, and he's not a guy to joke around. I don't think he's ever made jokes in his life, at least the time that I've known him. And he says, Jeffrey, the name of the character, he's kind of like my spirit animal in a way. And it was just so uncomfortable. You could poke the fucking awkwardness with a pin and it would explode. Like a helium balloon. It was horrible. It was really bad. And I sat there and I along with someone else, and we said, you understand this guy is a school killer, right? And I'm going to be changing the words, of course, for YouTube. You understand that, right? And I think he either doubled down or he went back. I don't really remember. It was years ago, but it is an example of, people through really dire times. He had just lost his girlfriend at the time. He doesn't look at this podcast anyway. I'm not friends with him. But, he lost his girlfriend at the time who was in a very bad spot, and he looked to this character who was innately very nerdy and ethy and weird. He looked at this freaky pedophile character who was a school killer, and to him it was like a hero type, I know he had a very tough childhood growing up, and I'm not going to get into it because that's his own business between me and him specifically. But, he had a tough time growing up, and it made sense that, I mean, it was fucked up, but it did make sense that he looked towards these people as a hero. It's why people look towards Punisher, the Joker, fucking Arthur Morgan, Thomas Shelby, all these wacky little fucking characters, because to them, they're heroes. And for many, it's obsessions. And for some, it's this idea that they can dehumanize by trying to empathize and enjoy and, relate to those who lack humanity. They themselves fail to reach empathy. It stops becoming a mild curiosity and a reason of survival and a reason of entertainment, and becomes something deeper, something more important, something greater. This idea that, killers are very much like us. And to a degree, they were human. But the point of killers is that they often lose that humanity, And people forget that. People see their problems in their lives and the issues they find themselves in. And oftentimes with a society like it is now, that's often very negative. They find that, that they can find solace and comfort in these characters who fight against that in a very fucked up way. It is this idea because of how, a lot of people's mentality in, throughout the 20th century, as it's gotten worse and worse, as, philosophy in terms of doomerism has grown to an ever higher number, right? And we as people are losing what has equipped us to deal with the world, right? And for many, being exposed to the world too early on. Because of this, we create these situations where everyday people, are starting to emphasize more with killers than they are with humans. Not saying that killers aren't humans, but you know what I mean, like normal people. Not saying killers, well, they're not normal. They're abnormal. That's the point. I'm not gonna fucking try and, I'm gonna sit on the fence for this one. I'm gonna sit on the pointed fence so I can go up my urethra. Oh, this podcast is fucked. But yeah. At the end of the day, this is a very toxic very toxic situation. And true crime is not the be-all, be-all. It is a very big topic point. But if you are someone out there who is, finds themselves, through the words that I'm saying, well, hey, look, maybe I may fit into these three categories. Take a step back and see what truly is weighing on your soul, Because I'll tell you, you don't have to find it in killers. You're really only going to harm yourself more than you won't. And, you're going to ostracize yourself from those around you, You may think it's very normal in your own mentality, but it truly isn't. When you say things like, oh, this school killer is my spirit animal. Oh, this murderer is really cool. I can identify where he came from. Oh, this murderer, Jeffrey Dahmer, is so hot. you push away those around you because what you're saying is not normal. Having kinks is different. You know, I, I'm not talking about a kink. I'm talking about an obsession. You know, and I'm talking about dehumanizing yourself to then empathize with someone who you can't have empathy for, right? Um, for the actions they do. I mean, you could have empathy for where they come from and what started their train, of course, right? Um, but if you're someone who is exhibiting this, take a step back and assess why that's the case. Please, you know, if you're sitting there in your house right now, it's been a long day at work. You just got back from the coal mine. You know, the economy's been very shit, so you've forced yourself to move to one of the, you know, coal mine nations across the globe. You know, you hardly speak the native language of the country, but the money's good, the hours are steady and reliable, and you make enough to survive. And when you get home from these long shifts, all you can do is, you know, watch a show, right? You work for almost 10, sometimes 12 hours every now and then, 3 days in a row. Come back home, you pretty much go straight to sleep. But before you do, you watch this show. You know, and you see this killer before you. And the story tells, you know, he was a murderer who murdered 3 children in their Hollywood home. They call him the Scarecrow Man. And, you know, because he was known for killing his victims with straw. Murdering his victims with straw. Yeah, that's why. So there'd be no evidence. He'd strangle them with a straw wire, a straw rope. Yeah. I realize I'm saying straw weirdly. Sorry, I'm from New Zealand. So straw, STRAW, I think is how you spell straw. That's what I'm saying. And you're sitting there while the presenter is struggling to say the word straw. And you see a lot of yourself in him. The guy worked a 12-hour dead-end job. He believed in very similar things to you, and at some point he saw God talking to him, and, you know, maybe that isn't a, you know, an excuse for his kills, but he lost his mind someday in that story. And you're sitting there and you think back to your day. This morning you woke up at the crack of dawn. It was around about 4 in the morning. You go from 4 to 4. It's dark out. And you're getting on your equipment, your head torch, your overalls, your pickaxe. Well, you don't use a pickaxe, you use a machine, your torch, and a spare set of batteries. And you meet up with the rest of your crew for the shift, and you go down the mine shaft elevator all the way down to floor 75, where the air is tighter and the work's hotter, and they have to ventilate the entire room. You barely see the sun in those 12 hours a day. The whole cave entrance is lit up by a large generator in the middle, and every time you look at the large generator, it blinds you for a second. Like a flashbang. But that's not what is important today. You get on the drill with your team, and you start mining into the Earth's surface, right? Core, surface, whatever fucking thing you're doing. I'm tired. You're mining into the crust of the Earth, and you're talking, as you often do, with your colleague, and your colleague, while you're talking to him, seemingly shifts in and out of conversation. It's like he's trying to hold the conversation, but something else is taking his attention, and before you realize it, your colleague has dumped fucking coal sue all over you. You're covered head to toe and blackened by the skin. You're coughing out dust. And, hours later, you still continue to cough out dust. It's stuck in your lungs, all over your clothes. It sticks to your hands as your skin goes knocked with as the coal gets into the skin and it starts dyeing your skin a dark gray, like you've got fucking some sort of plague from the medieval times. There's no Pied Piper to take all the rats out today. The rat's just in front of you right now. And they laugh at you and they play the joke, and you think about the straw man for a second and you hold up high your wrench for a second there. Maybe it's a mix of tiredness and anger and embarrassment, all these feelings you're thinking in the moment, and you think for a second how in that moment that could have been you. You would have happily killed those two. You wouldn't have blinked an eye. Wouldn't have lost a single bit of sleep over it. Because you were mad. You were angry. And in that moment, you're now back. Just like in the fucking, in the Stranger Things movie, I'm doing the references. Some guy hits you in the chest and your soul fucking comes out of your body and then back into your body. You have an outer body experience and you're sitting down on your couch now. The sleep has started to take you and you're laying back in your recliner. It's the only chair you have. You're sending all your money to your girlfriend who's sleeping with another guy. And you know this, but you don't have the time to send her a call and double check. The hours are too long. You hardly speak to her in those 3 days. And when you do come back, you sense something. But it's in this moment. Tomorrow will be the day you come home. And it's in this moment. Something clicks. Maybe something cracks. Maybe something activates that it never activated before. And you start seeing things differently. That act of that moment, that feeling within the moment made you feel like you lost something of yourself. That the only thing that stopped you that day was your resolve. And it affects you. And am I going to do a hypothetical for every single fucking one? I don't know. And then you get home and your fucking wife's being banged by another guy, so you kill him. You kill them both. They call you the straw man. They had a fucking, I don't know. They have something. This show's going to fucking hell in a handbasket. It's 48 minutes. I'm tired as hell. But let's get on to the next parts. We've got other stuff to get to do. I'm going to talk about last episode, our last finale. So, technically, not last finale. What am I saying? Technically, last episode was, the finale of that season. This will be season 1, episode 6. I'm very happy with last episode. Technically, this comes out a week after that. Hopefully, depends on what's going on. It was fun. I finally had my 2 guests on. It was a great time. Peasant challenged me a little bit, which was fun. Scrap was there, having a great time. We got very drunk. And, often because I do a lot of working out, my hangover was just fucking extreme. But, one of the things that was happening the day of recording, I was working out because I wanted to get a quick workout before I started the game, just to freshen myself up. And I will, after this episode ends, I will be jumping straight into the gym to go work out. Whether I have the energy to, who fucking knows. But what was interesting about this situation was that I was working out and, I get this call saying, hey, time-wise, I thought we were doing it now, not an hour later. Turns out I was wrong at the time that I gave them. I did admit that on the show, on that particular episode. But what it meant is I had to drop what I was doing, which is perfectly fine. And because I'm at a point where I'm like, oh, I'm about to finish up. I have 20 more minutes. Then I've got probably an hour 30 before the time starts. Have something to eat, have a shower, do X, Y, and Z. So I don't get to do that. So I find myself in the parking lot of a fucking stupid like sushi chain restaurant that we have in my country, and I rush inside to this place. I pick out some random shit. I don't really care about the price at that point. I just need something easy, something quick to eat, right? And I buy this food, and I get up to the counter. There's a bit of a line. I pay the money, and this guy goes, he says something to me, and I have to double back. I forget what the word he was like. He said, but he said "majimmy" or something like that to me, and I couldn't get it. I didn't understand. I was taken aback. And I looked at him, and there was this moment of silence, and I could see this was going nowhere. I looked at him, and I just walked away, and it was so fucking odd. He gives me my food. He says, "With Jimmy," it's probably like this fucking meme going on or some weird fucking thing. And, you know, all I want to do is just grab the fucking knife the guy's holding, skewer it into my throat, and use my blood as a canvas to tell him to die. There was a kid there. I want his traumatic thing in his life to be this guy goes up to the store, some guy says "with Jimmy" to him, and then he kills himself like a fucking sleeper agent. He turns around and says, "This is your fault! Beware the government's taking over! I'm a sleeper agent!" Huh? It was terrible. And so I have this horrible little interaction. There's this guy outside. I'm not kidding you. It was a surreal moment being here. There's this kid, because there's like a playground, not a playground, like a small little patch of grass with a couple of trees. And I see a guy next to my car doing a fucking TikTok. I don't know if he was, looking at the car and being like, "This is my car" on TikTok, but he's doing stupid little dances. And I don't have within me the energy to fight back. I grab my food. He sees me coming up. I look like I probably look like to him like a shitty Bigfoot fucking found in 4K. I quickly pass by. I'm tired. I'm sweaty. My hair's in a fucking mess because it's covered in sweat and it's all over. I've got hair sticking out. I'm covered. I'm drenched. You can see the sweat from my neck and my armpits. I'm disgusting. I smell like garbage. And I open my door and, it opens halfway and I'm struggling to open it because my arms hurt like shit because I went too hard and accidentally hurt myself because I had to rush. And I'm sitting there and I can hear the kids' music outside and I need to eat my food. So I'm stuffing my fat face in a fucking sushi car park, right? While a kid's playing TikTok music outside, and I'm looking where I'm sitting, left and right, where people are looking past me and they're viewing into the goddamn mirror at this grown man who looks disheveled, sitting in his car, eating food while he plays his music. And the podcast is too loud. And I can tell people are looking at me, and that this kid stops playing his fucking TikTok music. And he clearly walks off, and he's saying something under his teeth. And because I don't want an alteration, I lock the fucking door. Because I don't want to sit there and have him fucking do anything. And I'm sitting in a miserable case, and I'm hearing from my friends, "Hey, when are you getting on?" And I'm sending them a message. I'm stuffing my face. I'm choking on the food. I don't even put the condiments on the fucking sushi. You know how you usually put the fucking the sushimi, whatever the fucking shit that makes your brain hurt. The wasabi. Didn't even put it on. Didn't put the ginger. Didn't put the fucking sauce that comes with it. I'm eating raw fucking sushi that does taste good, but I'm eating raw sushi, and I've got these little fucking. I've got just a small salad, a sushi, like a seaweed salad that they bring as like a side dish, and I'm eating that, and I feel horrible. This is the worst moment ever. I could have probably headed home, but I didn't want to eat on the podcast because I'm a little bit more professional than that. And so I rev my engine up, I white knuckle my steering wheel, and then, you know, because it's fucking peak traffic season apparently, because this is being done on a Friday and people are getting back from work, and because I'm a fucking DJ and I'm starting my podcast at the time that people come back from work because I'm unemployed, because it's impossible to find jobs. Well, I do have some good things coming out, but still, hard to find jobs. I'm starving right now as I'm speaking about this, because I haven't eaten and I've been up since 4 in the morning. Can I tell you why I've been up at 4 in the morning? I know I'm doing tangents at this point. I know it doesn't matter, right? And I know Lily's gonna be pissed because she likes me to be on topic about these things. But you come here for the tangents. I've already done my big point, my big meaning for today. Alright, I've done my fucking... I clocked in and I clocked out. I get up at 4 in the morning, right? Because if those who have listened to the show so far, you may know that I do D&D, right? And I love D&D. I love it. I love it. And I'm not going to make a podcast over it. I will at some point do something with D&D, and that will be something kind of attached to Late Night when towards the end, the kind of ending of Late Night at the Barcade. Once we run out of topics, which till next episode, I would like to be gone from the whole doomerism, stop loving criminals thing, because I think I'm done talking about that. I think I've been able to milk that for long enough, and I need to start talking about other things. We've got some really interesting topics coming up that I'm excited to get into. But stop saying You know, if it's not on the podcast, I feel I was in this debate this morning, because it was at 4 in the morning, right? And it was essentially a conversation I was having with someone. I played with a DM who arguably created a very shitty campaign. I'm not going to get into the semantics of it, but essentially we were invited to a show which was like, oh, we're just going to have fun. We're going to see how you are. And then 2 hours before it starts, he invites 5 people and says to me, oh, we're now going to fucking have 5 people watch you with this deeply personal game that's meant for you to, like, if you think of it as an audition, that's essentially what it was, right? And now we've got 5 people watching who are just some guy's friends. I don't even know who the fuck they are. They're not even part of anything. And I send a message to the guy, the DM of the table, and I'm like, so, hey, what's the dealio with this? It's 2 hours before the game starts. I've just woken up, because it's done very early in my time, because I live in a different country, right? I've just woken up, and now you're expecting me to play for a audience of 5? There will be 10 people at the table. What the fuck is this? Are they gonna be quiet? Are they gonna... Like, I don't want to play this. Sorry, bud. This ain't for me. And he hits me with the, oh, it's kind of like Critical Role. We're kind of like Critical Role and they're the audience. It's a bit of a show. And I said, yeah, but we ain't Critical Role. We ain't a show. And, you know, I don't know about you, bud, but I ain't a big fan of finding out 5 people are joining us 2 hours before we start. And you don't at people either. You just invited them. Like it was your call to make. Oh, fuck. We get into the game. The game's alright. It's mediocre. It was a one-shot. The one-shot just was kind of shit. It had a good ending, I guess. You know, I liked the idea, you know? But, being someone like me, and I think the podcast has helped out with that a lot, and I think my future endeavors will help out with that a lot, is that, you know, and I've been playing D&D for such a long time that eventually I'm very jaded, and I also don't really have a sense of not respect, but kindness for a lot of bullshit, you know? Patience, I would say patience is probably the word, right? I don't have a lot of patience for bullshit. And, you know, I wanted to talk to this guy. I wanted to say, well, hey, this is what we think. You need to improve on this. Because your game sucked. You know, and hey, I've told the point a couple of times on the show how at times you need understand that you know, sometimes you'll have conversations with people and you'll try and have a discussion with someone and it's really a waste of time. But to a degree, I feel quite responsible for the D&D community, especially on, you know, this online community which I'm a part of. I do feel very connected to it. So when I'm able to help a, you know, new DM who is clearly doing something wrong, whose first time with strangers is this game, and who has brought in 5 strangers and has wasted 5 hours of our life where I could just be editing a fucking podcast, right? When you're using people's time, right? When you're using strangers on the internet and their time, you have to have a little bit of respect, and he was doing it very wrong with all of this stuff. I think another thing that happened, which was really bad, is that we were told an hour before we started, so just before the game started, that we were using webcams, you know? And I said, hey, I don't like that. I don't use webcams. And a friend of mine's like, hey, I don't show people my face. And he said to us, oh, that's fine. And then some bitch comes in. Some fucking brackets, quote unquote, go DM comes in and says everyone has to put on their fucking webcams. It's mandatory to get into this game. So we're all being wrangled. I'm waiting until fucking 3 hours in and I get a message from her saying, hey, I would love for you to show your face. Do you have an issue showing your face in this very passive-aggressive way? So we're sitting here having an enjoyable game, and I'm being someone passively aggressively telling me to not put on my camera, even though I was not told the cameras would be there. And hey, to a degree, I'm here complaining about it. The guy's not here to defend himself. Is he gonna come on the show? Fuck no. All right, you hear what I say. I'm right, he's wrong. Okay? And we're just having this situation. So now I've been forced to put on my webcam in front of a bunch of strangers, whatever. You know, which is not okay. And then some fucking little DJ joins. I don't know who this guy was. You know, fortunately, when I had spoken to the DM before, he removed all of the fucking watchers. And then just invites a watcher. Just invites a guy to watch. And he sits down there, he mutes himself, and then just starts taking screenshots of everyone when we have our webcams on. And I said to him, because I got the notification, I said to him, yeah, buddy, that ain't working. Sorry to stop the game here, y'all. But, you know, little guy here, I'm not going to say his name, little Timmy, I'll say his name is little Timmy, has just taken screenshots of all of us. Shame, shame, shame. This fucking mentally inept cunt has now taken a screenshot of all of us, and puts a little meme and a little bit of text, and I said to him, hey dude, you're gonna delete that, right? Like, that's not okay. And And he goes silent, doesn't say a word. You know, the DM doesn't say a word for like 30 minutes. So I sent a message to the DM. I said, yeah, that's not okay. Are you gonna do something about it? And he sends his little messages in the background. He doesn't stop the game for any reason. You know, it's just a fucking clusterfuck. Then the guy joins and he's like, I'm so sorry. I've never done this before. I swear to God, I've deleted it off my phone. He sends us his fucking photos with all of his personal photos, you know, and good on him for trying to double up and, you know, fix his mistake. But it's just a shit show. And the whole time I'm sitting down with, you know, one arguably very good player, my friend, and myself, and a player is just sitting there taking all the fucking time and attention. You know, the DM's not saying a word. It's a goddamn nightmare. You know? And I don't know what to do. And I get out of it, and I'm just completely lost. Complete and utter waste of time. And I see this guy for what he is, and I wanted to, you know, talk to him. I wanted to maybe strike up a conversation and get to the bottom of things. Now, I maybe should have put my money where my mouth was, or it's not fucking not done that, done the opposite of that, because I didn't get any sleep the night before, and I woke up at 4 in the morning to then have a fucking discussion with someone. And I'm sitting there doing my discussion. We're talking, and he's going, yeah. You know, I'm just listening to what you're saying. Explain yourself. Let's talk. And he's like, I have to go to work. Why are we having this conversation then? Find a better time. I'm not the one who set up the fucking meeting, but it's this case of, it was such a waste of time. I have no sleep. You know, I've been up now for 8 hours. I've been up for 8 hours. I'm going mad. Most of my day has gone, you know? I still have to work out, and then I still have to edit, and I still have to do X, Y, and Z. I am tired. I am so goddamn tired, and I'm so hungry. Anyway, that's the fucking episode. Let's get into how to get in touch. My favorite part of the show, how to get in touch. If you'd like to send over some hate mail, some mail, whatever you would like, please get in touch at latenightbarcade@gmail.com. Last episode, we had some people actually send in some fan mail. We didn't get any today because I imagine the people sent their fucking emails and then haven't seen their emails come up in the next episode because technically it hasn't released yet, because I try to do these things 2 weeks in advance as much as I can, because we're hoping to get to 20 by the end of the year, baby. But yeah, if you'd like to get in touch, send over whatever you'd like. If you want to send over an email and you don't want it read on the pod, just say, I don't want this read on the pod. I'll never bring up your name or anything like that unless you specifically say so or use a gamer tag and want to be brought up, you know. And if you want to just send something about a topic point you want discussed on the show, please do at latenightbarcade@gmail.com. I know Lily very much loves that. I haven't brought her up a lot today because I'm so very tired, and I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling to form sentences. I am so hungry and so tired. But I hope you enjoyed today's episode. You know, YouTube has been on my back and Spotify has been on my back because apparently I don't ask enough out of you guys. You can't simply enjoy the content. I have to ask if you can please rate, comment, and subscribe on, follow on Spotify, comment, subscribe on YouTube, because apparently I have to do that. So many of you watch and no one subscribes. Give me 1 subscriber and I'll be happy, okay? 1 follower on Spotify, please. And if you're my friends, bought my my account. I can't say that on YouTube. I take that back. Bought my account on Minecraft. That's what I said. Huh? This has been Late Night at the Barcade, episode 6, season 2, the start of season 2. We're hoping to get to 20 episodes by the time season 3 rolls around. We're going to have the guests show up. You've met Scrap in the last episode. You've seen Peasant in the last episode. They're going to show up. Thank you all for watching. This has been Late Night at the Barcade, episode 6. I have been your host, John. And this has been my editor, Lily. Thank you so much for watching. And as I always say, be bold, be brave, stay beautiful, people. Good night.